Howdy guys, it's Luke at Luke's Affordable Paint Service, and in this video I'm going to talk about jazzing it up. Ooh. What I mean by jazzing it up is adding the details that people usually don't think about. Rebar, pipework, rubble piles that miniatures can stand up on. I don't mean a bit of grit, I mean rubble. If a building gets blown up, all that top floor and all that building ends up in the lower part of the building. So for gameplay purposes, I am not filling it up completely. I'm leaving some so you can go on the bottom floor. But I'm still filling it up, and I'm digging right down, as in, so it's like exposed pipe work. So I'm going to put, like, you know, spewing out water from the pipes and bits and pieces like that on the later in the later videos. So there's a couple of things you need to take into account when making a board like this, because obviously you want your models to stand up at all points. So this video is going to show you how to make rebar, pipework, and how to balance your models. So it's just easy. So you don't have to have a boring flat gaming board. You can have some proper nice realistic rubble. Well, it's closer to realism than what a lot of people do, and it's still very playable and easy to play on. Alright guys, catch you in a bit. Right, what me and Daryl did off camera is we put a border on it just to keep it all neat and secure. It's just a piece of 2x4 drilled on, bit of no more nails and that, and then I'll sand it and neaten it up. But it seems there's a moth in the room. I'll tend to that and I'll see in a bit. Right, now rebar. I was speaking to Wayne about rebar, and he mentioned brass rod and using things like that. My problem that I was going to have with using brass rod is you could get the detail in it and everything else, but I was thinking about if you catch your arm on it, or because it's going to be a plain piece, it's going to get annoying. And I know I've caught myself on paper clips when I've used paper clips in the past as rebar. They get bloody sharp. So this garden wire, with it being rubber sheathed, it's 1mm garden wire. You can put the detail in easy enough. I'm not worried too much about getting the spacing the same or like that, because it's going to be small and cut and weathered. So as long as there's some detail on it, it'll catch you when you come to painting it. And just literally run it down the sharp points of your pliers. Now, for getting that in your building, all we're going to use is this is a rotary tool from Aldi. It cost me about 20 quid. Make sure the drill bit's about the same size as the wire. And drill an hole in, push it in. If you haven't got one of these, you could use I don't know what they call them, hand drills, whatever they're called, them little hand things, pin vise, that's the word. You could use a normal hand drill. Just be careful you're not gonna because it can melt, can resin with the speed thing, but you don't need a massive hole in there. Probably go in, I don't know, 4 or 5mm tops, and just drill all the areas where you think you want your rebars to go. And so yeah, get some holes drilled in it. Now for applying your rebar, literally just pop some super glue in the holes. Alright, get your rebar on the long strip, push it in and then cut it. The reason that you do this is just to make sure that you don't lose too much of the height that you're after, but you just spray it with some like glue accelerant just so it speeds it up. If you want to just shove them all in and wait for it to dry and then snip them back later, you can do, but I do this so I've got complete flexibility and making them as long or as short or as damaged as I like, so that's why I do it this way. The pliers are getting pretty blunt, that's why it looks awkward. It's an old set that I use for dip washing. I have even put some in the floor, because there would be. It's a completely concrete building. These more details and everything getting added to this as well, so the edges that look a bit smooth will be all roughed up and everything, so that'll all come in another video. But just apply them all over the model as much as you seem fit. Right, now pipework. This is literally a straw out of the drawer downstairs for my little one. It's a very flimsy straw. I could do with being a thicker straw, but it'll do. A lot of it's going to be under some water and stuff anyway. There's going to be rubble around it. There's going to be all sorts. So you your eyes won't be pulled to the pipe anyway. But the way I fit that is I just literally cut into the foam with my scissors, and then slot it, make sure it slots in and sticks out enough. What I missed on camera is I actually put some no more nails over the top, and so I pressed them into a bit of no more nails, and then you go over that with sculptor mold, which I'll show you in a second. Now, the sculptor mold, if you don't know what it is, if you check out the first video on this, I show you how I mix it and what I've used to make sculptor mold. All it is a modelling compound that you can build up your layers like this. It's super hard, it's super robust, and it dries in around 10 minutes. So that's why I use it. It's unreal. It's the best thing for making realistic scenery ever, because it's just quick and easy to use. You don't have to sand it, you don't have to cut foam or anything. I am adding a point for a tree, so I'm just marking that now, but we'll come back to the tree part on the final detailing, because I'm going to make quite a nice dead tree. Right, now the bit that you're all interested in, the rubble part. Now this is a Games Workshop barrel. What I did is I heated it up really hot in some boiling hot water and squished it, and then I made a silicone mould and cast a load of damaged squash barrels. This is so I can use as many as I want on this board, and it's not going to cost me a fortune, but it's just so I can put them under the rubble, and I did the same with a couple of ammo crates as well. Sorry about the lighting on this, one of my bulbs went. But anyway, once you've done that, get some PVA glue all over the model, and just literally, pipe it all over, brush it in. This PVA glue is going to be a strong base for the main thick rubble that we made in the last video, so just put that around all over, and then we'll get ready for pouring the rubble. Again, I do apologise about the lighting with the bulb gone. It's quite hard filming with just one lamp, so every time I get in the way it looks a bit dark. But anyway, use that rubble that you've got to just literally apply it generously. Okay, the bits that we'll be using on it later help join it together and help it adhere together, which I'll cover that when we get there. Don't be worried about things sticking up, or you're looking at thinking, well, a miniature's not going to be able to stand there. We'll sort that later as well. Just get it looking as dense and as good as you can, because it's surprising what all these pebbles and stuff fill in all the areas where it makes it look rough and makes it look where you're not going to be able to stand a miniature. So what you're doing when you're pouring these on, I know it looks like I'm just throwing them everywhere, but I'm also looking to see if there's a bit that the base won't stand in, and then you fill it. Okay, now this is tile grout and dried fine sand. The reason you use this is, again, it closes in some of them gaps, but the tile grout acts as an adhesive, so when you wet this and start gluing it and everything together, it starts to bond everything together as well. Okay, and it adds some nice finer rough debris. Now before we get cracking, this is isopropanol mixed with a bit of water. It's a pure alcohol. The reason that we use this is so when we put the glue on, it penetrates to the bottom of the mounds. If you haven't got isopropanol, use vodka. Just use it neat, don't water it down, okay? Just use alcohol, because it works a lot better than just flow aids for penetration on this sort of depth anyway. Now this is a very, very strong PVA glue mixture. It's about 50% glue, maybe a bit more, and then the rest of it's water. Make it as thick as you can so you can suck it up through a what do you call it? I can't think of the name. A syringe. But we're adding some acrylic matte medium. This is just again to act as an adhesive. It will matte, not that it matters. And I put some flow aid in because we are going to be painting over the top anyway. But the flow aid's just to help it flow over the top better, but the alcohol's there to draw it to the bottom. Okay. Now give that a good mix, and then we'll get ready to literally douse this everywhere. Now get your syringe and just pipe that everywhere. Okay, soak this through, don't be scared. Okay, it will dry. The matte mediums and everything in it will make it so it won't dry glossy. It doesn't matter. I put the matte medium in to act more as an adhesive, because PVA glue on its own is good, but adding the matte medium helps as well. Okay, It just means you have to do this once, maybe twice, rather than 3 times. Okay. Now, soak up all the excess on the areas that you don't want, because with it having that much glue and matte medium in there, it will dry thick. So if there's any details that you don't want covering, just soak that up or use your syringe to pull the thicker areas up. To speed the drying time, use one of them is a heat gun or an air dryer. It still takes a long time with a hairdryer because we've put a pint of sealing solution on this whole model, and we will be doing this whole process again just before I go to bed. I don't film that, but I do repeat the process again for you, okay? And that means it just will not come off at all, okay? Now, just to show, because the people are concerned that you can't stand miniatures up anywhere, this is the planning stage. After you've thought about where the rubble is and everything, and you've filled up areas, check your miniature all over the table. I've got 2 types of miniatures. I've got one on a larger miniature on a decent sized base that's weighted, and then I've got a normal size model on a base that's not weighted to see whether it'll stand up. Now there's an area there where it won't stand up, but there's no ground covering there either, so that's going to come up an extra few mil, and it does stand in some places, not others, so we'll fix that when we come to the ground area. If there's any rubble causing it issues where it won't stand at all, get yourself some clippers or just chip it off or break it down so it does stand there. If you need to move the ground a little bit so it'll stand there, move the ground. Just put a bit more sculpt mould on. Simple as that. Now, the lighter, smaller models with the smaller bases, not a problem. Stand everywhere. Okay, so I'm very happy that I could play a game on this and it not be an issue at all. So I'm going to leave it as it is now. I tested it all over the board just to make sure that we're going to be no issues. So yeah, you can play on a ruined table. So what do you think? So far, so bloody good. I was going to do a bit more in this video, but the glue's still drying. As you saw, that sealant coat is just immense. I did that twice in one evening, so it's soaked. So I'm going away for the weekend with the band, and when I come back, that should be completely bone dry. This is the only problem when you're working with rubbles and doing big piles of stuff. I mean, you could put a layer down, glue it, and paint another layer down and glue it again, or just go out and buy a shed load of runny super glue and just spit it out all over the place. Only problem then though is you might set your fire alarm off in your house and probably get burns all over your face. So just be careful when you're applying large amounts of super glue. Alright, so this is why I do it like that. I don't mind leaving it a couple of days, because at the end of the day it needs to be solid, because with gamers, if you put in chunks of lead on it and chunks of resin and stuff like that, it's going to get knocked and banged. I don't want pieces of that peeling off, so that's why I leave it a good few days to cure, and then when it comes to doing more of the ground coverings and when it comes to doing more of the applying more debris and details and flocks, I actually spray it down with watered down PVA glue as well. There's paint to go on top of it. There's a lot of sealing steps after this as well, so it's going to be solid. It's going to be like one piece of glue when it's done, but it doesn't deter from the detail because it soaks it in, and that's what the isopropanol was for. Okay, and that bit of flow aid. So guys, that's take 2. Number 3 will be probably Tuesday next week. That'll be like painting the buildings before we get onto the ground covering. Depending on how much detail I go into painting the buildings, it could be stretched over to a 4th or even a 5th video, because I'm going to go into making like a really nice semi-arid tree. I can't make my mind up whether I want it to be like a really sandy desert sort of board, or like just an arid earthy type board. I can't make my mind up yet, so we'll play with that as we're going on. But there's going to be a lot of things that I'm making for this board from scratch, so I thought I might well just bang it all in a big group of videos. Alright guys, so thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to support the channel and help me out, and you need some scenic supplies, I sell a massive range of flocks, and it's all foam as well guys, so it sticks like bloody hell. So you just spray it with glue, it sticks. There's over 52 foam types. There's sawdust, there's static grasses now, and it's an ever-growing range that grows and grows and grows, and every time you purchase some of that, it sorts me out and keeps me doing this. Alright guys, so thank you very much, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you again for the next video. See you in a bit.